There comes a moment in life when you suddenly realize you are no longer the same person you used to be. The things that once excited you now feel empty. The people you once tried to impress no longer matter, and the goals you chased for years start to lose their meaning. It can feel confusing, even frightening, because it seems like you are losing yourself. But what if you are not losing yourself at all? What if you are finally becoming who you were always meant to be? According to psychological insights inspired by Carl Jung, human consciousness evolves in stages, and the final stage of inner awakening is often symbolized by something called the Sophia stage, a state where wisdom replaces ego, where inner peace becomes stronger than external chaos, and where your identity is no longer controlled by society but guided by deep self-awareness. Very few people ever reach this stage because it requires confronting pain, illusions, and the hidden parts of your own psyche. But if you are watching this, there is a chance you are already moving through it without even realizing. And in this video you will discover 8 powerful signs that indicate you may have reached the Sophia stage, the final level of awakening, and some of these signs might feel so accurate it will give you chills. Sign number 1: you feel detached from superficial desires. One of the first indicators of entering this stage is a noticeable shift in what you value. Things that once seemed extremely important, like status, approval, money, or constant validation, begin to lose their emotional grip. This does not mean you reject success or comfort. It means you are no longer psychologically dependent on them. You may still pursue goals, but your happiness does not collapse when you fail, and your self-worth does not increase when you succeed. This emotional independence is deeply unsettling at first because society conditions us to measure our value through external achievements. When that system stops controlling you, it can feel like you are floating without direction, but in reality you are gaining freedom. The ego thrives on comparison, but wisdom thrives on inner stability, and when you begin to detach from superficial desires, it means your identity is shifting from ego-based to soul-based. Sign number 2: solitude starts to feel peaceful instead of lonely. Earlier in life, being alone may have felt uncomfortable or even frightening. Silence forced you to confront thoughts you did not want to face, so you filled your time with distractions, people, noise, or entertainment. But in the Sophia stage, solitude becomes healing. You begin to enjoy your own company, your thoughts feel clearer, your emotions calmer, and your mind less chaotic. This happens because you are no longer running from yourself, you are integrating your inner world, and when a person becomes internally aligned, solitude stops feeling like isolation and starts feeling like home. Psychologically, this is a major transformation because the fear of loneliness is one of the strongest human fears. Overcoming it indicates deep emotional maturity. Sign number 3: you see through social masks more easily. Another powerful sign is an increased ability to sense authenticity or deception in others. You notice hidden motives behind behavior. You recognize insecurity beneath arrogance, and you detect emotional tension even when someone appears calm. This does not come from judgment, but from awareness. As you understand your own unconscious patterns, you become more sensitive to them. In others, conversations may feel more transparent too. You might find yourself less impressed by superficial charm because you can sense what lies underneath. This can sometimes make social interactions feel strange because you realize how much of human behavior is driven by fear, ego, and unconscious conditioning. But this awareness is not meant to create distance. It is meant to create compassion, because when you see clearly, you understand that everyone is fighting invisible battles, and this deeper perception leads directly into the next signs, which reveal even more profound psychological transformation. And those changes often surprise people the most because they affect emotions, reactions, and identity at the deepest level. And if you recognize them in yourself, it may confirm that you are moving closer to the final stage of awakening. Sign number 4: you stop reacting impulsively and start responding consciously. One of the clearest shifts that happens when someone reaches higher awareness is emotional regulation. Situations that once triggered anger, jealousy, insecurity, or defensiveness begin to lose their power over you. It is not that you never feel negative emotions anymore, it is that you are no longer controlled by them. There is a small but powerful pause between what happens and how you respond, and inside that pause you gain freedom. Earlier in life, reactions were automatic. Someone criticized you and you felt attacked. Someone ignored you and you felt rejected. Someone succeeded and you felt inferior. But now you observe emotions instead of becoming them. You notice anger rising, but you do not explode. You notice sadness, but you do not collapse. Psychologically, this means your consciousness has become stronger than your unconscious impulses, and this is a hallmark of deep awakening, because true maturity is not about eliminating emotions, it is about mastering them. Sign number 5, you feel less need to prove yourself. Another powerful indicator of the Sophia stage is the disappearance of the constant urge to validate your worth. You no longer feel desperate to convince people that you are intelligent, successful, attractive, or important. You speak when you have something meaningful to say, not when you need approval. You allow misunderstandings without rushing to correct them, and you feel comfortable letting others underestimate you because your identity is no longer dependent on external perception. This can be confusing for people around you because they were used to the old version of you, the one who tried harder, explained more, and sought recognition, but now there is quiet confidence instead of loud ambition, and paradoxically this often increases respect from others. Because authenticity carries a natural authority, proving yourself is exhausting, but being yourself is effortless. Sign number 6, your empathy deepens, but your tolerance for toxicity decreases. Something very interesting happens in the final stage of awakening. Your compassion expands, while your boundaries become stronger. You begin to understand people more deeply. You recognize trauma behind anger, insecurity behind arrogance, and fear behind control. This understanding makes you kinder, more patient, and less judgmental, but at the same time you become less willing to tolerate manipulation, disrespect, or emotional chaos. Earlier in life, empathy sometimes meant self-sacrifice. You tolerated harmful behavior because you wanted to help or avoid conflict, but now empathy coexists with self-respect. You can care about someone and still walk away. You can understand someone's pain without allowing them to hurt you. This balance between compassion and boundaries is a sign of psychological integration because it shows you are no longer abandoning yourself to maintain relationships, and this transformation often changes your social circle dramatically. Some connections fade because they were built on old patterns, while new, healthier relationships begin to appear, and this process can feel lonely at times, but it is actually a natural part of growth because when your consciousness changes, your environment eventually follows. Sign number 7, you question reality and identity at a deeper level. Another profound sign of reaching the Sophia stage is existential awareness. You begin to question assumptions you once accepted without thought. What is success? What is happiness? Who am I beyond roles and labels? Why do humans behave the way they do? Life starts to feel more complex, but also more meaningful. You may notice patterns in experiences, coincidences that feel symbolic, or lessons hidden within challenges. This does not mean you believe in magical thinking. It means you recognize that reality has psychological layers beyond surface events. Your mind becomes more reflective, more philosophical, and more curious about truth and comfort, and this shift often creates a sense of detachment from mainstream thinking. You might feel different from others, not superior, just different because your priorities are changing. While many people focus on competition, status, or validation, you are searching for understanding, purpose, and authenticity, and this internal shift prepares you for the final and most powerful sign, the one that truly defines the Sophia stage, because it represents the complete transformation of identity, and once it happens, life never feels the same again. Sign number 8, you feel an inner peace that does not depend on circumstances. The final and most powerful indicator of reaching the Sophia stage is the emergence of a quiet, stable peace inside you that remains even when life becomes uncertain. This does not mean your life suddenly becomes perfect. Challenges still happen, disappointments still occur, and pain still exists, but your relationship with those experiences changes dramatically. Earlier in life, happiness was conditional. You felt good when things went your way and anxious when they did not. Your emotional state depended heavily on external outcomes, but now there is a deeper foundation beneath everything, a sense that you are okay regardless of temporary situations. This inner stability comes from self-acceptance. You are no longer fighting yourself. You are no longer trying to become someone else to feel worthy. You recognize your strengths, your flaws, your past mistakes, and your potential, and instead of rejecting parts of yourself, you integrate them according to psychological insights inspired by Carl Jung. This integration is the essence of individuation, the process of becoming whole when the conscious and unconscious parts of the psyche align. A person experiences profound authenticity and inner harmony. This is why the Sophia stage is often described as wisdom consciousness, because you begin to live from awareness instead of ego, fear, or social conditioning, and something remarkable happens when you reach this state. External validation loses its control over you. Criticism does not destroy your confidence. Praise does not inflate your ego. Rejection does not break your identity, because your sense of self is rooted internally, not externally. You start making decisions based on alignment instead of approval. You choose paths that feel meaningful even if others do not understand, and you release Relationships that drain you without guilt because you trust your intuition more than social expectations. This transformation can feel strange at first. You may notice you react differently than before. Situations that once caused anxiety now feel manageable. Conflicts that once consumed your thoughts now pass quickly. You forgive more easily, not because others deserve it, but because you refuse to carry emotional burdens that poison your peace. You begin to understand that holding resentment hurts you more than anyone else, and letting go becomes an act of self-liberation rather than weakness. Another profound change is your relationship with time. You stop rushing through life, chasing future happiness, and start appreciating present moments. Simple experiences like sunlight, conversations, silence, or creativity begin to feel more meaningful. This happens because awareness pulls you into the present instead of trapping you in regrets or worries, and presence is where peace exists. The Sophia stage also brings clarity about purpose. You may not suddenly discover a grand mission, but you feel guided toward authenticity. You want to contribute, create, or help in ways that align with your values rather than chasing empty achievements. Success becomes defined by fulfillment, not status, and meaning becomes more important than recognition. This is why many people in advanced psychological growth shift careers, relationships, or lifestyles. They are not lost, they are realigning with their true nature, and perhaps the most beautiful part of reaching this stage is the realization that you were never broken. You were evolving. All the confusion, pain, identity crises, and emotional struggles were not signs of failure, they were steps toward integration. Every difficult experience forced you to confront deeper truths about yourself and life, and those truths shaped your awareness. The person you are becoming now is built from every challenge you survived. When you understand this, self-compassion replaces self-criticism. You stop judging your past because you see how it led you here, and this acceptance creates freedom because shame loses its power over you, and freedom allows growth without fear. But here is something important. Reaching the Sophia stage does not mean the journey ends. Growth continues, learning continues, and life still presents challenges, but your foundation is different. Now you move through experiences with awareness rather than unconscious reaction. You trust yourself more, you fear uncertainty less, and you recognize that meaning is created from within, not granted by external approval. And if you recognize many of these 8 signs in yourself, it may indicate you are already entering this final stage of awakening. Whether you fully realize it or not, the discomfort, confusion, and transformation you experienced were not random. They were part of psychological evolution, and the most important message is this: you do not need permission to become who you are meant to be. Trust your inner voice, honor your growth, and allow yourself to change. Because the moment you stop resisting your evolution is the moment wisdom truly begins, and that wisdom is the essence of the Sophia stage, the final awakening, where you are no longer searching for yourself, you are finally living as yourself.